2022, the automobile industry has a lot of expectation from this year. And I can tell you for certain brands, the year takes on a whole new meaning because it's not just about continuing their strategy from the previous year, but it's about now enhancing that and also adding to it. That is exactly what's going to happen at Volkswagen India. And to speak about that with us, Ashish Gupta, brand director, joins us. Ashish, Happy New Year.
Same to you, Siddharth. Very nice to be interacting with you. I think welcome back, first of all, to India. We've been seeing you on the roads and in the highways and in the mountains of the US with the brilliant looking Taigun. So thank you so much. I think, as I said to you before we started this interaction, it actually the visuals from those locations actually gave us those bumps. Yeah. So thank you so much for that.
I have to thank you because I think we hadn't had your sort of unending support on getting this done, those cars wouldn't have made it to the US. So to you and to the whole team at Volkswagen India, and indeed your colleagues at Volkswagen USA, I think that was a very special ride. And in fact, it's a good note to start on. The Taigun, is a nominee, as we all know, for the World Car Awards in 3 categories. That's why it was there with us to begin with. And so many people had the chance to drive the car. And I have to tell you, I must share this with you that the most familiar refrain was, it's a typical Volkswagen, no two ways about that. And, wow, this is made in India, so these were the 2 good things that we got out of that.
Yeah, that again gives me goosebumps because that's exactly the feeling that we wanted to evoke. And that if we've been successful in that, I think that itself speaks a lot about the car itself. Yeah. So thank you very much. I think, and as you said that on that note, we set out to make 2021 the year of the Taigun, and I think we have been fairly successful in that.
So I of course will spend some time talking about the Taigun, but let me sort of go a little bit differently and start with 2022. New year. So that is my question to you. Actually, 21 was the year of the Taigun. So what is 22 the year of?
So the 2022 is going to be the year of Volkswagen because we will be completing our portfolio. Last 4 years or last 2.5, 3 years, we've been focusing on the SUVW strategy. But this year will be about reinventing the sedan segment. That's where I think the action will be from our side. That segment lacks, new product introduction and exciting products for the customers right now. And the car that we will bring right into the heart of that segment is something which really excites me. And I'm giving you a positioning hint right now. That car will give you goosebumps.
I can't wait to see it. I have cracked this little pun with your predecessor, so I'll crack it again. That I'm expecting that car to have a lot of virtues.
I'm sure.
That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah,
I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to push you on the virtues branding, but the car itself. I mean, you're right. That segment has been a bit cold for some time now. It still has very respectable volume though in the marketplace, so there's no doubt about that. But in the past, the Vento and its sister, the Rapid, cars like the Honda City, the Ciaz, the Verna, they have created a lot of excitement in that space. Last couple of years, it's gone a little bit quiet, and that's not necessarily just because there's no demand. I think a lot of people still want a very smart sedan. But would you say that is the reason? The fact that just the action has cooled down, there aren't that many options.
So, if you look at this segment itself, and I see a lot of narrative about this segment going down, but if you look at the figures itself, Siddharth, actually in 2021, the sedan segment, the A0 notchback segment, as we call it, the midsize sedan segment, actually grew 28% in 2021 compared to 2020. Maybe 2020 is not the right comparison, but definitely I see that as a sign of things to come. The other thing which we have to consider is that who are going to be the buyers of the car that we introduce or which we bring into this segment. No doubt, all of us realize that the momentum has shifted towards personal mobility. And when you see people who are buying cars right now, a large percentage are actually buying additional cars in their family. It's not necessarily that new car buyers or new buyers are coming into the market. It's additional car purchase which is going on. And when that is the kind of segment or that is the kind of customer set that is growing, then you have to look at what is their buying pattern. If you are a family of 4 and you're buying a second car in the family, ideally, there's a lot of debate going on in each of the families, whether it should be 2 SUVs or 1 SUV, 1 hatchback and 1 notch. So this is the debate which I think is happening in most of the families who are going for additional purchases right now. And that's where if you have an exciting product which excites the customers, which gives them an options, comes in, has a lot of potential.
So you gave them the SUVs last year. You're giving them the sedan this year.
Yes.
Can I assume you'll give them the hatchback next year?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I won't go that far. Focus has to be kept laser sharp.
No, I'm honestly, I'm just teasing because I just wanted to pick up on what you said. But no, coming back to the compact sedan, you're right. The volumes are there. The buyer is very much interested. We've already got so many so many exciting queries about what people are expecting. Again, your sister brand has already shown the Slavia, so that's also generated some excitement. But how important is it for you to have that presence? Because yes, we know that you don't have a presence in the hatchback space, and between the compact sedans and the premium hatchbacks, that's again a large chunk of the market that you're currently sort of missing from.
Yeah, so we are definitely present in the hatchback segment. The Polo is still there in the market, so that's something which has generated a lot of fans for the brand, and that's something which we are willing to looking at cashing in on. At the same time, there's a large fan following for our sedans, which we have introduced in the country over the last 10 years. Be it the Vento, be it the Passat, be it the Jetta. So these have actually established and have a lot of fan following also in the market. The popular refrain when I talk to anybody in some parts of the country is, "Where is the Jetta coming back?" So I would like to think that the new midsize sedans that we are bringing in is actually addressing that question. That it's that kind of a car. Yeah. No, I wouldn't like to say much, but I would like to just share with you that we will give you a first glimpse of that car in the first week of March. Okay, so that's something which you can look forward to, of having, if circumstances permit us to actually see the car physically, or in whatever way is possible. In first week of March is when we will be showcasing or doing the world premiere of the car.
No, I have been, very candidly, I can say I've been a big fan of the Jetta in the past. So you obviously have my attention. That's the sort of, can I call it like a world debut then, first week of March?
Yes, it is. It is. So basically, it's a world premiere for this car.
And of course, we'll get to know the formally get to know the naming, let's say, at the time. But how far from that would then be the market introduction and the pricing announcement?
So we are currently looking at the market introduction in May, basically. So good 2.5 months between the world premiere and the market introduction and the price announcement, of course.
Now comes the other part, of course, of the preparedness in terms of manufacturing and making sure that you're ready from both initial inventory and then meeting the kind of demand this car would have. We've spoken about the kind of targets you have in the long term. I remember last year as well speaking to you about eventually where you see yourself settling in terms of how many Tiguans and how many of these sedans. But given the pressure that currently remains with semiconductor shortages, and of course the fact that the production is shared between cars like the Kushaq and the Slavia as well. So how do you see this playing out for you? And between now and May, what's going to be the focus to get those numbers right?
So if you look at it again, I will base this question on 2021. In 2021, actually, we ended up selling close to 26,000 cars, slightly lower than what we wanted to, basically because of non-availability of cars. But it was a good progression. It was 66% volumes more than what we sold in 2020. And our clear objective in 2022 is to more than double the volume that we sold in 2021. So I'm looking very clearly at selling at least 60,000, 55 to 60,000 cars in the year 2022. As I said, the new global sedan is going to be our next volume product. And since it comes in May, those volumes will ramp up from May onwards, with the Taigun and the new global sedan both adding to the volumes. In the first quarter and up to May, I think our focus will be very clearly on the Polo, the Vento, and the Taigun. And of course, the newly introduced Tiguan, which by the way, has also generated a lot of interest among customers. So first 5 months, it's very clear. It's about continuing the gains that we have made with the Taigun and cashing on it, making sure that whatever cars we can supply to the market, considering the semiconductor shortage and the production constraints, we have to get them to the market, we have to get them to the customers, and then move up and ramp up with the new global sedan launch.
Speaking of the Taigun itself, you're right. I'm privy to the fact that you could have done better numbers even on just that one model, because when you launched, the anticipation was huge, and it was like the opening of a floodgate, literally. Yeah. And we've seen that. We've seen that with the kind of queries we get as well, and the kind of buzz it's generated. So, okay, semiconductor is one part of it. What about the balancing act between both the brands? Because, I'm sure that there's a certain production sort of schedule and a plan that was envisaged at the start of this whole, 2.0 strategy. But now, once you've seen the kind of demand, the kind of bookings both the cars are getting, is there any tweaking in terms of, maybe saying, hey, we need to give a little higher allocation to certain variants or the Taigun itself?
No, those are definitely regular discussions. At the end of the day, both the cars belong to the same stable of the Volkswagen Group. So whichever cars has more demand, it makes sense to produce that, and that's what we have been doing actually also in the group. But these are regular discussions. Being part of the group, we are still individual brands, and we have to fight with each other. And that's healthy competition basically. But at the end of the day, we are one company, and we all understand that the common objective is to make India 2.0 successful. And whatever product sells better, whatever product can help us to achieve that objective together is what we will always settle on producing.
I'll tell you why I'm asking this, Ashish, because, in the marketplace, I get calls from people, right, saying, hey, I booked this car, but they're saying there's so much waiting on it, etc. Today, you have a situation where that's not the case with the Kushaq. I mean, there is a certain inventory that's built up. We understand from your dealers as well for that brand. While on the Taigun, it's not like that. So going forward, at least, can we assume some of these discussions will have certain changes on the ground as well coming in?
I think what we have to keep in perspective is that the Kushaq was launched a good 3.5 months before the Taigun. So the inventory buildup or the time for the Kushaq to ramp up their volumes was much higher than what we got. Basically, what we got in Taigun for the year 2021 was actually the 3 months of ramp up period, when actually production was picking up. Then we had this whole semiconductor issue where we couldn't get the number of cars that we wanted to. So I wouldn't say that it is by design, or it is because something is being prioritized over another. It is just because of the lead time it requires for these changes to take place.
Yeah, I'm smiling because there was a very politically correct, very well crafted answer from you.
No, but that's true. Siddharth. That's true. And these are discussions. Of course, there will always be tussles between the brands. But at the end of the day, the organization is mature enough and intelligent enough to make the right decisions.
No, fair enough. And I'm certainly not trying to cause mischief. The good thing with the Taigun, though, is that, what you set out to do, what you wanted, both from the point of view of, forget the volumes or, the sales or, the actual cars going into the market. That's obviously going to be always part of any strategy. But also what it's done for the change in the mindset, how people are once again looking at Volkswagen, how you are a part of a consideration set in a very hot segment. Yeah. What you set out to do there, you think you've achieved?
No, definitely. When we started strategizing for the launch of the Taigun, it was very clear that first of all, we have to make our brand awareness high. Yeah. So that was one of our strategic pillars, the brand. So that is what we set out to do by launching our SUVW strategy, by implementing the new brand design, so that there's a transformation which people can very physically see the manifestation of in whatever we are doing. So this was done very well, starting from the Auto Expo, where we showcased the new brand design.
Yeah, and then that happened. You're right; it happened before the car even arrived,
exactly.
Or the process began.
Exactly. And then changing the design language that we use in our communications, even for our existing products like the Polo and Vento. So people could definitely see that this is a brand on the move. And then the proof of the pudding was with the Taigun, which actually exactly fit into the positioning of the brand as a young, vibrant, connected brand. So that's something which I think gave a lot of strength to the Taigun launch, and people could actually, see the proof of what we were preaching for a long time.
So let's talk about the actual sort of performance now in terms of, the bookings, the kind of actual deliveries that have already happened. Share some numbers on the Taigun with me.
So on the Taigun, we ended the year with more than 20,000 bookings. Yeah. So of course I couldn't deliver most of them. Unfortunately, we had the potential to at least deliver 12 to 13,000 of them, considering the production plans that we had for the year. We ended up delivering close to 8,500 cars, which was a good 3,500 cars below what I wanted to. But the good thing is, Siddharth, that we have been able to carry forward most of those bookings going into 2022 as well. Of course, it will depend upon how the market progresses, how the situation progresses, how much of that demand are we able to meet. But definitely from what we had available, we did 110% of what we could have, logically done. Typically from a sales perspective, when you look at production versus retail, there is typically a gap of around 45 days of stock. in the whole lead time. We ended the year with a stock of 3 days. Yeah. So whatever we could have sold, we delivered.
Yeah. No, so tell me today, as things stand, where we're looking at it right now, what's your order book? How many bookings in hand, and what sort of production do you see?
Yeah, so I started the year, with the live bookings of close to 5,000. Yeah, so customers who are still with us, because there are a lot of cancellations which happen at the year end because now customers want the new model year and all. So I'm sure many of those bookings will come back, but live bookings as of now, we have close to 5,000 bookings. Production, we are looking at producing a minimum of 3,000 to 3,500 Tiguans every month. That's the plan, but of course, it will depend upon the semiconductor availability.
Sure, and hopefully that will only go up and not down.
Yes,
from here
yes.
on.
That's the whole thing. And if I look at January, it seems to be okay so far. But as I've said before, it's a discussion every week. Yeah, you only have visibility for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then the situation changes.
And assuming that supplies resume whenever they do, then you still have the option of extra shifts, etc. Right? That's something that you haven't even explored yet.
Yes. So the production capacity that I'm talking about right now is with 3 shifts. So if parts availability is a constraint, then the company might take a decision whether to delay the 3rd shift or to start it later. So that's something which will develop over time. Cannot say anything on this because this is something which I don't have visibility on.
No, sure, and it's an evolving situation in any case, but that's still very good because in terms of just your horizon, in terms of demand, etc., you're still very confident in terms of how the Taigun is looking.
Yeah, very much. It's very phenomenal response, and I've been monitoring all social media myself, going into Facebook, YouTube, your channels, Twitter. I would say 99.9% is overwhelmingly positive. We do have concerns coming in from customers who want some improvements in the product, and I really appreciate that feedback because when I read through those comments, I can actually feel that they want to help the brand. Okay, so that's something which we discuss on a daily basis within the team, with our plant, with our quality colleagues, on what can we do better, how can we address that feedback. So the response has been overwhelmingly positive, which is very, very encouraging for us.
No, that's great. And in fact, you're right. The the kind of buzz that it has created around the brand, I know that will only sort of carry through now or further buoy your brand when the sedan drives in. Now, of course, the Tiguan is something that you recently also just introduced. You mentioned that. Tell me about that, because again, I know that obviously there the allocation would not be very high, given the fact that again we have the semiconductor shortage. This is a popular global product, and then there's a limited allocation in terms of numbers for the kits to come to India. But given all of those constraints, I've heard the car is sold out already for this quarter.
Yeah, so I have a plan to sell close to 1,500 and on the upper limit around 1,800 Tiguans this year in 2012 or in 2022. So the allocation for the first quarter seems to be on track. Yeah, so I have similar numbers available. The response has been overwhelming once again. So that we launched the car on 7 December. And within the first 15 days, we had more than 300 bookings. As things stand today, I have close to 500 bookings, and we will be starting delivery from next week. So 500 means I'm practically sold out for the next 3 months. The production for next 3 months is booked.
And is that an ongoing conversation? Because I know that you have this sort of yearly plan with headquarters, but given the response to the product, would you see that some kind of tweaking is possible a few months down the line in terms of allocation?
We will surely try for that. But looks difficult, because globally, at this point of time, even the headquarters is working on a quarterly basis compared to a yearly basis that they
Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, and like I said, it's a very popular model. It's one of the best-selling models in countries like the US as well. So no surprise. But, last year we saw, I think, a better than expected, I'm sure you'll agree, better than expected response to both the Tiguan Allspace as well as the T-Roc. At the time we spoke about, or we flirted with this idea, I remember with even your global colleagues, that given that sort of overwhelming response, you could consider a situation of where the T-Roc also maybe gets assembled in India in the future. While I know that that's not happening like tomorrow, that's something that's still going on, like a discussion that's not closed.
No, actually, the local production of the PNC route for the Tiguan Allspace and the T-Roc, I think that's off the table now. To be very honest, for the next 2 or 3 years, I think that's off the table. primarily because the Tiguan Allspace and the T-Roc were brought in as an FBU route, primarily because we had an offer gap for 2 years till we came back with our Taigun and new global sedan. So it was a bridging product for us, and it was specially approved with special financial considerations for those 2 years. Bringing it through the parts and component route is not going to make a business case for us or for the customers, because the price points that I will be forced to achieve are, you cannot sell the cars, or it will not be attractive proposition for the customers, or the volumes I will get at those price points will not be attractive enough. So that's where we are. So definitely for the next 2 years, definitely I'm not looking at the parts and component route for these cars, but definitely also exploring to continue the FBU route.
Okay, so the car itself is not off the
not off the charts, not off the charts. The atmosphere is not very much conducive right now. Yeah,
sure.
That's what I would like to say. There's no point discussing small volumes when there is a global production cut of 20% or 30% coming in. So atmosphere is not conducive, but definitely not off the table. Discussions are still on.
No, that's very encouraging. And I completely agree with you that the timing is not something that's, right now correct. But as long as you're not shutting the door on that, and I'll tell you why I asked this, more than the Allspace, because I understand, you at least have the Tiguan now, so the family is represented, and, not everybody wants a 3-row. While if you look at where the Tiguan is positioned and where the Taigun is positioned, there's this huge gap in the middle. And that's where, the T-Roc could play a very interesting role.
Yeah, that's exactly my thought process as well. And that's what we are discussing with our product teams also in Wolfsburg, of how we can position the T-Roc. Because honestly, the T-Roc, when we introduced into the market, primarily because it was a bridging product for us, we underpriced it, to be clear. So we have to explore where can we take the price point of that car, and whether it will make sense to the customers at that price point. So that's a sweet spot we have to find. And if we are able to make a business case out of it for the customers and for ourselves, it's definitely not off the table.
Fingers crossed, because I agree with you that of course that was a great move from your side, which is why I think so many people rushed and bought that car, and that was also sold out very quickly. SUVW, the rebranding, it was also supposed to be a big change in terms of how people physically saw the brand across the country. So you embarked on this massive sort of rebranding at the actual stores, all the retail frontage, which has gone into this new look Volkswagen identity. Where are we on that? Is it more or less complete?
So as of 31st December, we have completed the transformation at 115 touch points out of our, I would say, 151 touch points at the end of the year. Rest of the things we will complete by Q1. It all, again, slight concern on that side because of the COVID situation right now, because this is a physical transformation and the material has to reach, the vendors have to function, the installations have to take place. But our target is definitely to complete the network by end of Q1. So 70 to 75% completed, all major locations, all full-fledged facilities completed. Now it's the smaller stores that we have to transform.
So I was going to say that most of your, sort of high volume locations are then covered already.
High volume tier 1 metros, super metros, and most of the tier 2 towns completed.
Okay. And, how much of that, if any, feedback has come to your dealers in terms of, how people have reacted to that transformation? Because I understand, we are still in that era where a lot of people aren't going into the physical dealerships completely. But we did see big windows last year where there were a lot of people stepping in and, happy to interact physically. What was the feedback? What was the reaction?
I think, for people coming into Volkswagen, it was a new experience, and that's the overwhelming feedback that we got from the dealers and from the customers itself. But I think numbers speak for themselves. If I look at my showroom walk-in in September or October, when actually the showroom traffic had started coming back, we were averaging around 3,000 to 4,000 walk-ins across India in our network, partially due to the Taigun launch. And I would also like to believe that because of the appealing nature of our new showrooms, actually the walk-ins went up to around 12,000 to 13,000, and we have been stabilizing at around 10,000 walk-ins every month. That's a tripling of the showroom traffic. So I would like to believe that, along with the new product introduction, it's also the transformation that has taken place in terms of attractiveness of our showrooms and our touch points that is helping this showroom footfall.
No, that's great to hear, and congrats to you and the team on that. So last point then, Ashish, the year ahead, you've spoken about the products, also the kind of production that you'd like to see happen and the kind of numbers you're expecting. But overall then, for the outlook for this year, You said year of Volkswagen. Where would you like to see it end up?
Okay, so if I talk from the industry perspective, what we believe is that this year in 2021, the industry finished at around 2.92 million, so around 29.2 lakhs. Industry is more or less likely to stay at similar numbers. We might touch around 3 million by end of 2022. That's from an industry perspective. So typically, my ambition would be to come close to a 2% market share by the end of 2022. Yeah, that would be in line with our goal of being at least 3% by 2025. That would help us in a long way. And I think we have the product portfolio right now to justify that. We are at the heart of the mid-size SUV segment with a well-entrenched product, with a well-accepted product like the Taigun, which we have to now, of course, make it a way of life in our network. A lot of excitement happening on the brand side, on the product side with the new global sedan, and of course, the premium appeal of the flagship Tiguan. So this is a very well-rounded product portfolio which we have to implement. But at the same time, I think 2022, I would like to remember, or I would like my team to remember, and customers to remember as the year when we delivered on our promises. One of the biggest promises we have made also is on the cost of ownership, is also on digitalization, is also on improving loyalty for our production services. So that's something which is very important. We have introduced a lot of initiatives, but sustaining them, taking them to their logical conclusion, getting the results for ourselves and for our customers from those initiatives is something which I would like to focus on in 2022. Stabilize and actually, derive the benefits out of these initiatives that we have taken.
That's great, and we wish you all the very best with that, to you and the team. And can't wait to take a look at the sedan. I know you said it's now not very far away. I really look forward to seeing it and, of course, driving it.
Thank you so much, Siddharth, and I'm also looking forward to having you. I just hope that we are able to have this world premiere in a physical setting.
I do hope so too. I hope things settle down. Please stay safe. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Siddharth. Take care.